Hello and welcome to this Safe Work New South Wales webinar. The title of this session today is High Risk Work Licences. This is one in a series of webinars specifically designed to help construction site supervisors to understand the importance of their roles and the major impact they have in maintaining safe and productive work sites. My name is Gary Colthorpe and I'm a Senior Inspector with Safe Work, and I'll be co-presenting this session with State Inspector John Patton today. Thanks for joining us today, John.
Thanks, Gary. It's great to be here.
It certainly is, and John and I will alternate between us as we take you through this presentation today. Okay, so let's make a start by looking at the topics we're about to cover in this webinar. Firstly, let's look at when is a high-risk work licence required. Then we'll discuss what you're required to do by law and what the work health safety legislation says about high-risk work licences, the licence requirements, and then what are the licence holder's obligations. As we go through this webinar, keep in mind that in Australia, you need to have a high-risk work licence to do any high-risk work that is either residential, commercial or industrial, regardless of the cost or size of the work. And a high-risk work licence is required to operate certain machinery, erect scaffolding, undertake dogging or rigging work, and you are not required to have a high-risk work licence if the work is being completed while undertaking training towards getting a high-risk work licence, and your work is under the direct supervision of a person who has that same licence. And you also must have the correct skills, qualifications, training and experience so that you can do the work safely. In this webinar, we'll discuss the licence requirements as detailed in Schedule 3 of the Work Health Safety Regulations and discuss the requirements of the regulations Part 4.5, which is titled High Risk Work, and generally includes clauses 81 to 141. So let's discuss the requirements for high-risk work licences for scaffolding work, and consider that scaffolding work means erecting, altering or dismantling a temporary structure that's been erected to support a platform and from which a person or object could fall more than 4 metres. There are 3 types of scaffolding high-risk work licences. A basic scaffold licence is for scaffolding work involving modular or prefabricated scaffolds, cantilevered material hoists with a maximum working load of 500 kilograms, ropes, gin wheels, safety nets, static lines and bracket scaffolds. An intermediate scaffold licence is for basic scaffold licensing work and any of the following: cantilevered crane loading platforms, cantilevered and spur scaffolds, barrow ramps and sloping platforms, scaffolding associated with perimeter safety screens and shutters, mast climbing work platforms, and tube and coupler scaffolds. And an advanced scaffold licence includes intermediate scaffold licensing work and any of the following: cantilevered hoists, hung scaffolds and suspended scaffolds. High-risk work licence requirements for dogging work includes the application of sling techniques, including the selection and inspection of lifting gear to safely sling a load, or the directing of plant operators in the movement of a load when the load is out of the operator's view. High-risk work licence requirements for rigging work includes the use of mechanical load shifting equipment to move, place or secure a load to ensure its stability, or the setting up or dismantling of a crane or hoist. There are 3 basic rigging high-risk work licences. A basic rigging licence consists of dogging and rigging work involving any of the following: structural steel erection, hoists, precast concrete, safety nets and static lines, mast climbing work platforms, perimeter safety screens and shutters. An intermediate rigging licence includes basic rigging licence work and rigging work involving any of the following: hoists with jibs and self-climbing hoists, cranes, conveyors, dredgers and excavators, tilt slabs, demolition of structures or plant, and dual lifts. And advanced rigging includes intermediate rigging licence work and rigging work involving any of the following: gin poles and shear legs, flying foxes and cableways, guide derricks and structures, and suspended scaffolds and hung scaffolds. John will now discuss the licence requirements for cranes, hoists, reach stackers, forklifts and pressure equipment. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Gary. Schedule 3 of the Work Health and Safety Regulation 2017 is titled High Risk Work Licences and Classes of High Risk Work. There are 11 different types of cranes and hoist types listed in this schedule for which a high risk work licence is required, including the following. Number 1, tower cranes, which are boom cranes or jib cranes mounted on a tower structure, and the tower structure may be demountable or permanent. Number 2, self-erecting tower crane, where the erection and dismantling processes are an inherent part of the crane's function. Number 3, derrick cranes. You won't see many derrick cranes around anymore, but derrick cranes which are slewing strut boom cranes with the boom pivoted at the base of a mast that is guyed or held by backstays and capable of luffing under load. Number 4, the portal boom crane, a boom or jib crane that is mounted on portal frame that is supported on runways along which the crane travels. You most commonly see these on wharves. Number 5, bridge and gantry cranes are controlled from a permanent cabin on the crane or remotely controlled and having more than 3 powered operations. Next, we have vehicle loading cranes with a capacity of 10 metre tonnes or more, which are a crane mounted on a vehicle for the purpose of loading and unloading the vehicle. Number 6, non-slewing mobile cranes with a capacity exceeding 3 tonnes, which are mobile cranes incorporating a boom or jib that cannot be slewed and includes an articulated mobile crane or a locomotive crane, but does not include vehicle tow trucks. For those not familiar with the term slewing, means the angular movement of a crane boom or crane jib in a horizontal plane. Number 7, and slewing mobile cranes, which are mobile cranes that incorporate a boom jib that are capable of being slewed. This excludes front-end loaders, backhoes, excavators, and other earth-moving equipment when configured for crane operation. There are 4 classes of slewing mobile cranes, including, so we've got up to 20 tonnes, up to 60 tonnes, up to 100 tonnes, and over 100 tonnes capacity. And each of these classes includes the use of vehicle loading cranes, non-slewing cranes, and reach stackers. Number 8, material hoist, consisting of a car, bucket, or platform cantilevered from and travelling up and down the outside of a structure and used for hoisting things, but not people. Number 9, personnel and material hoist, which are a cantilevered hoist, a tower hoist, or several winches configured to operate as a hoist, intended to carry goods, materials, or people. Number 10, boom-type elevated work platforms, where the length of the boom is 11 metres or more, which are telescoping, hinged devices, or articulated devices, or any combination of these, used to support a platform on which personnel and materials may be elevated. Number 11, and finally, concrete placing booms, which is plant incorporating an articulated boom and used to place concrete by pumping it through a pipeline attached to the boom of the plant. You also need a high-risk work licence if you want to operate a reach stacker of more than 3 tonnes capacity. That incorporates an attachment for lifting, moving and travelling with a shipping container, but does not include a Portainer crane. A powered reach stacker incorporates an attachment for lifting and lowering a shipping container. You need a high-risk work licence to operate a forklift truck or an order picking forklift truck. A forklift truck is defined as a powered industrial truck with a mast and elevated load carriage with a pair of fork arms. An order picking forklift means a forklift truck where the operator's controls are incorporated into and elevate with the lifting media. You need a high-risk work licence if you want to operate certain types of boilers and reciprocating steam turbines or steam turbines in New South Wales. A boiler is defined as a vessel in which steam or vapour is generated or in which water or other liquid is heated at a pressure above that of the atmosphere. There are 2 types of boiler operation high-risk work licences. The standard boiler licence is for the operation of a boiler with a single fuel source that does not have a preheater, superheater, or economiser attached. And the advanced boiler licence is for the operation of a boiler, including a standard boiler, which may have one or more fuel sources and may have a preheater, superheater, or economiser. A steam turbine is equipment that is driven by steam acting on a turbine or rotor to cause a rotary motion. There is a high-risk work licence for the operation of steam turbines that have an output of 500 kilowatts or more. And a reciprocating steam engine is equipment that is driven by steam acting on a piston, causing the piston to move. There is a high-risk work licence for the operation of reciprocating steam engines where the diameter of any piston exceeds 250 millimetres. Gary and I will now take you through the next few slides relating to what the Work Health and Safety legislation says about high-risk work licences and what you are required to do by law. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, John. Before we go through the next few slides, we have a bit of a disclaimer. This is where we'll talk about some of the key clauses in the legislation, but we're just going to mention the highlights and paraphrase, rather than quote the legislation word for word. So this is not legal advice. We're just trying to help you to understand a number of the key responsibilities that you need to be aware of in your role as a supervisor. To review all of your legal responsibilities and the full detail of these requirements, you'll need to look up the Work Health and Safety Act 2011 and the Work Health and Safety Regulations 2017, both of which are available online. Clause 81 of the Work Health Safety Regulations 2017 says that a person must not carry out a class of high-risk work unless the person holds a licence for that class of high-risk work, or is in the course of training and is under the supervision of a person who is licensed to carry out that work. There are a number of other exemptions with detailed explanations in the regulations under Clause 82, which we don't intend to discuss in this session, which you can review online if required. Clause 83 of the regulations refers to the recognition of high-risk work licences from other jurisdictions and says a high-risk work licence includes an equivalent licence granted under a corresponding jurisdiction, provided it's being used appropriately and has not been suspended, cancelled or expired. Clause 84 says that a person conducting a business or undertaking, who we can refer to as a PCBU, and for the purpose of our discussion today, we can think of it as an employer or business owner, must ensure that the person supervising a person carrying out high-risk work provides direct supervision of the person, unless the nature or circumstances of a particular task make supervision impractical or unnecessary. And a reduced level of supervision will not place the health or safety of the supervised person or any other person at risk. And Clause 85 says that a PCBU must not direct or allow a worker to carry out high-risk work for which a high-risk work licence is required unless they see written evidence that the worker has the relevant high-risk work licence. Or in the case of the exceptions referred to earlier, a PCBU must not direct or allow a worker to carry out high-risk work when in training unless they see written evidence that the worker is undertaking the course of training. And a PCBU must not direct or allow a worker to supervise high-risk work unless they see written evidence that the worker holds the relevant high-risk work licence. And a PCBU must keep record of the written evidence provided for at least 1 year after the high-risk work is carried out. John will now take us through the high-risk work licensing requirements. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Gary. Clause 106 of the regulations relates to the suspension or cancellation of a licence and says that the regulator may suspend or cancel a high-risk work licence if the licence holder has failed to take reasonable care to carry out the high-risk work safely and competently, or comply with a condition of the licence, or obtain a reassessment of competency if directed to do so, or give false or misleading information in an application or on a request, or was granted a licence or renewal on the basis of certification that was obtained by giving false or misleading information, or was obtained improperly through a breach by the assessor who conducted the competency assessment. Also, if the regulator suspends or cancels a licence, they may also disqualify the licence holder from applying for a high-risk work licence of the same class or another licence to carry out work which requires the same or similar skills to those of the licence that has been suspended or cancelled. If the regulator suspends a licence, the regulator may vary the conditions of the licence, including imposing different or additional conditions. So, who can apply for a high-risk work licence? To apply for a high-risk work licence, an applicant must be at least 18 years of age, have completed training in the relevant class or classes with a registered training organisation, an RTO, have been assessed as competent in the relevant classes by a SafeWork New South Wales accredited assessor working for the RTO, be able to speak English well enough to carry out high-risk work safely with other people. Keep in mind that an applicant cannot apply for a high-risk work licence unless they have completed the relevant training and have been assessed as competent. If the regulator grants a high-risk work licence to the applicant, the licence document must include the following: the licence holder's name, photograph, date of birth and signature, the class of high-risk work licence, and a description of the work within the scope of the licence, the date on which the licence was granted, and the expiry date of the licence. Some other things to keep an eye out for to make sure that the licence is genuine include checking that the font is all consistent, check that the class coding is correct and that there are letters, not numbers, in relevant classes. For example, SI and RI, not S1 or R1. The licence number should start with HRW prefix. If you suspect the licence is not correct, report it to SafeWork New South Wales on 13 10 50 or via the Speak Up app. Other things you need to know include a high-risk work licence can be renewed online or in person. Now, to renew online, visit the SafeWork New South Wales website, type high-risk work licence into the search bar, scroll down to Renew a Licence and click the Renew Now link. It will take you to the Service New South Wales online application form. You can also call SafeWork New South Wales on 13 10 50 if you need help applying online. Now, to renew in person, call SafeWork New South Wales on 13 10 50 to talk about your renewal options. A paper renewal application form can be mailed out. The applicant will need to take the completed renewal application form to a participating Australia Post office with proof of identity and current high-risk work licences. Visit Service New South Wales for instructions and help to find a participating Australia Post office or call SafeWork New South Wales on 13 10 50. Keep these important points in mind. A licence holder must only do high-risk work for which they are licensed, comply with any conditions imposed on their high-risk work licence, have their licence document available for inspection. Notify SafeWork New South Wales of a change of address within 14 days of moving. Notify SafeWork New South Wales as soon as you can if your licence document is lost, stolen or destroyed. Return the licence to SafeWork New South Wales if directed to do so. Gary will now discuss our podcast series and how to get in touch with SafeWork New South Wales. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, John. We want to take the opportunity to tell you about our podcast series, also known as Safety Casts. These podcasts are available for different work health safety topics in construction, including scaffolding, electrical safety, and working at heights, to name a few. They involve safe work inspectors discussing these topics and also contain information about additional resources available to the industry. As well as watching our other webinars in this supervisor series, we encourage you to tap into this additional Safety Cast resource, as they're great for toolbox talks with short, sharp messaging, and they're available online and on many media platforms and apps, including Spotify and Apple Play. Simply search for SafeWork Safety Casts in your search engine to access the latest of these podcasts. There's also a large amount of guidance material available through the SafeWork New South Wales website. This material will assist you to understand how to maintain high standards of health and safety on your work sites, and so reduce workplace injuries. We encourage you to access and read through this information. Simply visit the SafeWork New South Wales website and type your topic search into the search bar. And our Speak Up app also allows you to advise us of any unsafe workplace activity you may encounter, and you can remain anonymous. You can also download this app through the Safe Work New South Wales website. And in wrapping up this webinar, we'd like to remind you that you can always contact us on 13 10 50 to seek advice, report a health and safety concern, or to speak to an inspector about any health and safety matter. Well, John, I believe that's a wrap. So thanks for assisting today, and thanks to everyone who was listening. We hope you found the information valuable.
Thanks, Gary. And thank you for joining us today, everyone, and we hope to see you again.